Steve Harvey, let's keep this funky. Steve Harvey's on his third marriage. His third wife was mistress to his second wife. Yet, black people have anointed this the oracle when it comes to black dating. They're on a book on dating. You on your third wife.
What if one of the most successful marriages in Hollywood was built on a story that wasn't completely true? For years, Steve Harvey and Marjorie Harvey have been presented as the ultimate power couple, the perfect love story, the perfect family, the perfect image. But now, a man claiming to know secrets from the very beginning is making allegations that have the internet completely stunned. His name is William Freeman, also known as Big Boom. And according to him, the story the public has been told for years isn't the real story at all. He's claiming he was there before the fame, before the marriage, and before the Harvey empire became what it is today. Even more shocking, he alleges that Steve Harvey knew far more than people realize about rumors that have followed Marjorie for years. But that's only the beginning. Because the allegation currently sending social media into complete meltdown has nothing to do with cheating rumors, divorce rumors, or even Steve Harvey himself. Instead, it involves Lori Harvey. One claim, one interview, one statement that instantly had people questioning everything they thought they knew about one of the most famous families in entertainment. Now, before we go any further, it's important to be clear. These are allegations and internet rumors, not proven facts. No public evidence has confirmed these claims. But that hasn't stopped millions of people from debating them online. And once old interviews, past family drama, ex-wife accusations, leaked audio, and decades-old rumors started resurfacing, the story became impossible to ignore. So, what exactly did Big Boom claim? Why are people suddenly revisiting old allegations involving Steve and Marjorie? And what is the bombshell statement about Lori Harvey that has everyone talking? Today, we're breaking down the timeline, the accusations, the responses, and the internet theories behind one of the most talked about celebrity controversies online right now. Today, we're breaking down the timeline, the accusations, the responses, and the internet theories behind one of the most talked about celebrity controversies online right now. To understand why this story has exploded again, we need to go back to the rumors that first put Steve Harvey and Marjorie Harvey at the center of internet drama. For years, Steve and Marjorie have been viewed as one of entertainment's strongest couples. Their relationship has been featured in interviews, social media posts, television appearances, and motivational discussions about love and marriage. To millions of fans, they represent stability, success, and a second chance at happiness. But whenever a celebrity couple reaches that level of public admiration, rumors tend to follow. And in the Harvey family's case, those rumors have never completely disappeared. Every few years, a new allegation seems to surface. A new story begins trending. A new theory starts making rounds online. Most of the time, those stories eventually fade away. This time was different. The reason? One man stepped forward and claimed he wasn't just hearing rumors. He claimed he was part of the story itself. That man is William Freeman, better known online as Big Boom. And according to his version of events, he has known Marjorie Harvey long before she became Mrs. Steve Harvey. The internet immediately became interested because Big Boom wasn't presenting himself as an outside observer. He was presenting himself as someone connected to the origins of the entire relationship. That distinction matters. Anyone can repeat gossip. Anyone can react to headlines. But when someone claims they were personally involved in the early chapters of a celebrity story, people pay attention. Whether the claims are true or not becomes a separate discussion. The attention comes from the possibility. And that's exactly what happened here. According to Big Boom, the public version of how Steve and Marjorie met isn't the complete story. Most fans know the romantic version. It's a story that's been shared in interviews for years. The story goes that Marjorie arrived late to one of Steve Harvey's comedy shows. Steve noticed her immediately. The room reportedly became quiet. Then, according to the story, Steve looked at her and declared that he was going to marry her someday. It's the kind of story that sounds like it belongs in a movie. A love at first sight moment. A perfect beginning. A memorable piece of relationship history. Fans loved it. Media outlets repeated it. The story became part of the Harvey brand. But Big Boom claimed something very different. According to him, Steve and Marjorie's paths crossed through a completely different environment. He alleges that their connection began through a poker house setting where he and Marjorie were involved. If true, that would dramatically change the narrative surrounding one of the most famous relationship stories in entertainment. Now, it's important to emphasize something. Big Boom's claims remain allegations. Publicly available evidence has not confirmed his version of events. But the internet isn't necessarily interested in confirmation first. The internet is interested in possibilities. And once his interview clips began spreading, social media users started comparing his story to the one they've heard for years. That comparison alone was enough to create controversy. Because once people begin questioning one detail, they often begin questioning everything else. That's exactly what happened next. Instead of focusing only on how Steve and Marjorie met, people began revisiting years of old rumors that had previously faded from public attention. Stories that many thought had disappeared suddenly returned. Old articles started resurfacing. Old interviews were reposted. Old social media discussions came back to life. The biggest topic involved long-running allegations surrounding Marjorie Harvey and claims that have followed the family for years. At various points, internet rumors have accused Marjorie of being involved in affairs. The alleged identities have changed depending on who is telling the story. Some versions mention employees. Others mention people working closely around the family. Others tell completely different versions. That inconsistency is one reason many people dismiss the rumors entirely. When details constantly change, credibility becomes difficult to establish. Yet despite those problems, the stories continue resurfacing.
Why?
Because controversy attracts attention, especially when major celebrities are involved. At one point, rumors became so widespread that social media users began discussing the possibility of divorce. Some posts even attached massive financial figures to the speculation, numbers that sounded more like corporate mergers than celebrity separations. The internet did what it always does. Theories multiplied. Speculation expanded, and suddenly millions of people were discussing a situation without any verified evidence proving it existed. Eventually, both Steve and Marjorie publicly pushed back. Marjorie addressed the rumors online and indicated that the stories being circulated were false. Her response was calm, measured,
Direct.
Rather than engaging every accusation individually, she dismissed the overall narrative. Steve chose a different approach. At a public event, he directly addressed the speculation. He told audiences he was doing fine. He joked about the rumors. He projected confidence. The message was clear. As far as Steve was concerned, the internet was creating drama where none existed. For many fans, that should have ended the conversation. But celebrity controversies rarely work that way. Sometimes denials stop a story. Sometimes denials make people discuss the story even more. In this case, the conversation continued. Then Big Boom introduced another allegation. And this one caught even more attention. According to his claims, Steve Harvey wasn't unaware of the rumors.
He wasn't shocked by them.
Instead, Big Boom suggested that Steve knew far more about certain situations than the public realizes. That accusation immediately changed the direction of the discussion. Instead of debating whether rumors existed, people began debating whether Steve himself had knowledge of events that were never publicly discussed. Again, no evidence has publicly verified those claims. But allegations involving hidden knowledge tend to spread quickly online. People become fascinated by the possibility that public figures know secrets the public doesn't. That's one reason conspiracy theories often gain traction. The mystery becomes part of the attraction. As clips continued circulating, another interesting pattern emerged. The conversation stopped being only about Steve and Marjorie. Instead, people started discussing image, public image, celebrity branding, and how carefully constructed narratives can influence public perception. Steve Harvey's career has long been built around advice, marriage advice, relationship advice, personal growth advice, motivational messages. Many people see him as someone who teaches others how to build stronger lives and stronger relationships. Because of that reputation, any controversy involving his own marriage attracts even more attention. Critics ask whether public advice matches private reality. Supporters argue that successful public figures often become targets simply because of their visibility. The debate becomes less about facts and more about trust. And once trust enters the conversation, emotions usually follow. Some people instinctively defend public figures they admire. Others become more suspicious. Both sides feel confident in their position. That's exactly where this story found itself. The internet divided into competing camps. One group saw a smear campaign. The other saw unanswered questions. And right as that debate was reaching its peak, Big Boom delivered the claim that would push the controversy into an entirely different category. A claim involving not Steve Harvey, not Marjorie Harvey, but Lori Harvey herself. A statement so unexpected that even people who had ignored the earlier rumors suddenly started paying attention. And once that particular allegation surfaced, the conversation surrounding the Harvey family became bigger than it had ever been before. Up until that point, most of the discussion had focused on Steve Harvey and Marjorie Harvey's relationship. People were debating old rumors, questioning timelines, and revisiting stories that had circulated online for years. But then Big Boom made a claim that completely shifted the spotlight. According to him, the biggest secret wasn't about Steve. It wasn't about Marjorie. And it wasn't about the rumors that had dominated social media for years. Instead, it involved Lori Harvey. When the clip first started spreading online, people immediately stopped what they were doing to listen. Even viewers who had dismissed earlier allegations suddenly became curious because this claim had the potential to change the entire conversation. Big Boom publicly alleged that he is Lori Harvey's biological father, not Steve Harvey. Him. The statement instantly exploded across social media. Reaction channels picked it up. Blog pages started discussing it. Comment sections filled up with thousands of opinions. Some people laughed it off immediately. Others demanded proof. And some simply couldn't believe anyone would make a claim that serious unless they truly believed it. The reason the allegation attracted so much attention is simple. Lori Harvey isn't just another celebrity child. Over the years, she has built her own public identity separate from Steve Harvey. She's become a major public figure with millions of followers, brand deals, modeling opportunities, and constant media attention surrounding her personal life. Because of that, any claim involving her family background was guaranteed to generate headlines. According to Big Boom, he had remained silent for years. He claimed that people close to the situation already knew the truth. He suggested that Steve Harvey was aware of everything. And he even pointed to old photographs, arguing that there were physical similarities between himself and Lori. Now, let's be absolutely clear. These claims remain unverified. No publicly available evidence has confirmed them. No official documents have surfaced supporting them. And no public statement from Lori Harvey has validated any part of the story. But in today's social media environment, verification often arrives long after the discussion begins. That's when another chapter of the Harvey family's history returned to public attention. Steve Harvey's previous marriage. For years, Steve's ex-wife, Mary Harvey, has made various claims regarding their relationship and divorce. Those claims have periodically resurfaced online whenever Steve finds himself involved in controversy. As new allegations spread, many internet users began revisiting old interviews and public statements connected to Mary. Supporters of Mary's version of events argued that some of her concerns had never been fully addressed. Others believed her statements represented one side of a complicated personal situation. Regardless of where people stood, her name became part of the conversation again. And that's exactly what happens whenever major celebrity controversies explode. The public starts connecting unrelated events. Old stories get attached to new stories. Past conflicts become evidence for current theories. Before long, an entire narrative begins forming. Whether that narrative is accurate becomes difficult to determine because multiple sources, opinions, and allegations become mixed together. That's precisely what happened here. As the Lori Harvey claim gained attention, social media users began connecting it to older stories involving Steve, Marjorie, and Mary's divorce. Every interview became a clue. Every public comment became evidence. Every timeline became something people wanted to investigate. Then another topic entered the discussion: Marjorie Harvey's past. For years, internet discussions surrounding Marjorie have often referenced relationships and events that occurred before she became married to Steve Harvey. Many of these conversations involve old reports, legal stories, and controversies that have been discussed online for decades. As newer allegations gained traction, those older stories started circulating again. Some commentators argued that the public was simply rehashing information that had already been discussed countless times before. Others believed those stories provided important context. The result was predictable. The controversy became even larger. What originally started as one interview was now turning into a massive web of accusations, rumors, timelines, and competing narratives. Every person involved seemed to have a different version of events, and that made it almost impossible for casual viewers to know what to believe. At the same time, another interesting question emerged. Why do stories about the Harvey family continue attracting so much attention? The answer probably has less to do with any single allegation and more to do with Steve Harvey's public image. For decades, Steve has positioned himself as a voice of advice and wisdom. He's discussed relationships. He's discussed success. He's discussed family values. He's discussed personal growth. Because of that, many people view him differently than they would other celebrities. When controversy surrounds someone known primarily for entertainment, audiences often treat it as gossip. When controversy surrounds someone known for giving life advice, audiences often treat it as a test of credibility. That's why every rumor involving Steve tends to attract so much attention. People aren't just evaluating the allegation. They're evaluating the image. And whenever image and controversy collide, public interest increases dramatically. Supporters argue that Steve has spent decades building a successful career and that his accomplishments speak for themselves. Critics argue that public personas don't always reveal private realities. The tension between those two viewpoints fuels much of the discussion. Meanwhile, Steve and Marjorie have continued presenting a united front publicly. Photos continue appearing online. Public appearances continue. Social media posts continue. From the outside looking in, the couple appears largely unaffected by the noise. But internet discussions rarely require new developments to stay alive. Sometimes all they need is a new voice repeating old claims. That's exactly what Big Boom's interview accomplished. Whether people believed him or not, he gave the internet fresh material to discuss. And once millions of people start discussing a story, it develops a life of its own. By this stage, the controversy had evolved far beyond one allegation. It was now about trust, reputation, image, family history, and the gap that sometimes exists between public perception and private reality. The biggest question wasn't whether people had heard the claims. The biggest question was whether anyone could actually prove them. Because despite all the interviews, all the theories, all the social media debates, and all the viral clips, one major problem remained: evidence. And as the internet continued arguing over allegations, another layer of the story was about to emerge, one involving leaked conversations, former insiders, and claims that would add even more fuel to an already raging controversy. And as the internet continued arguing over allegations, another layer of the story was about to emerge, one involving leaked conversations, former insiders, and claims that would add even more fuel to an already raging controversy. By this point, the discussion had become far bigger than William Freeman, far bigger than one interview, and far bigger than a single viral clip. The Harvey family had become the center of one of those internet storms where every old rumor suddenly feels relevant again. That's when attention shifted toward people who had allegedly spent years around Steve Harvey's inner circle. For many viewers, insider claims always carry a different kind of weight. A random social media user making accusations is one thing, but when someone who has allegedly worked around a celebrity begins sharing stories, people tend to listen a little more closely. And that's exactly what happened when old conversations and reports started resurfacing online. Suddenly, social media users weren't just discussing Big Boom's allegations anymore. They were comparing his claims to comments made by other people over the years. They were looking for patterns. They were looking for connections. And most importantly, they were looking for consistency. Because that's how internet investigations usually work. People begin collecting pieces from different sources and trying to fit them together into one larger picture. The problem is that not every piece actually belongs in the same puzzle. Yet once speculation takes over, separating facts from assumptions becomes increasingly difficult. That is exactly where this story finds itself today. On one side, you have people who believe the Harvey family is being unfairly targeted. They point out that successful public figures often attract rumors. The larger the celebrity, the bigger the gossip. The bigger the platform, the more people become interested in tearing down a carefully built image. From this perspective, the allegations represent nothing more than another attempt to generate attention using famous names. Supporters also point to something important. Despite years of rumors, allegations, and online theories, no definitive evidence has publicly emerged proving many of the claims that continue circulating. No undeniable documents. No verified recordings confirming the biggest accusations. No public admission from anyone directly involved. For these supporters, that matters a lot. Because in their view, allegations without proof should remain allegations. Not facts. Not conclusions. Not verdicts. Just claims. But critics see the situation differently. They argue that where there's repeated controversy, there are often unanswered questions. They point out that many of these stories have survived for years. Some allegations fade quickly. Others continue resurfacing decade after decade. To critics, that persistence alone is enough reason to keep asking questions. Whether those questions ultimately lead anywhere is another matter entirely. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. No matter which side someone supports, everyone seems to agree on one thing. The public doesn't have all the answers. And whenever there are missing answers, speculation rushes in to fill the gaps. That's why every interview becomes important. Every old clip gets replayed. Every statement gets analyzed. Every timeline gets dissected. People aren't necessarily searching for facts anymore. They're searching for certainty. And certainty is often hard to find in celebrity controversies, especially when the people involved continue moving forward with their lives. Throughout all of this noise, Steve Harvey has largely continued doing what he's always done: working, hosting, speaking, building his brand. Marjorie Harvey has continued sharing moments from her life, appearing publicly, and presenting the same image she's maintained for years. Lori Harvey has continued focusing on her own career and public profile. In other words, while social media debates rage on, the family itself appears determined not to let those conversations define them. Whether that's because the allegations are false or because they simply refuse to engage with controversy is something only they know. But their approach has created an interesting situation. The less they respond, the more people speculate. The more people speculate, the more content gets created. And the more content gets created, the longer the story survives. It's a cycle that has repeated itself countless times in celebrity culture. One allegation becomes a discussion. The discussion becomes a theory. The theory becomes a narrative. And eventually, the narrative becomes larger than the original claim itself. That seems to be exactly what's happening here. What started as one man's allegations has now evolved into a conversation about trust, image, fame, and the hidden realities behind public personas. For some people, this story is evidence that celebrities carefully control what the public sees. For others, it's evidence that the internet has become too willing to believe dramatic claims without sufficient proof. Both arguments have supporters. Both arguments have critics. And neither side appears ready to change its position anytime soon. That's why this controversy continues generating attention. Not because anyone has definitively proven anything, but because the uncertainty itself has become the attraction. People want answers. People want clarity. People want to know whether the stories are true or false. Yet the deeper they dig, the more complicated the situation seems to become. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson in all of this. Celebrity culture thrives on mystery. The public sees only part of the picture. The rest gets filled in with assumptions, theories, rumors, and speculation. Sometimes those assumptions turn out to be correct. Sometimes they don't. But until undeniable evidence emerges one way or the other, most of these claims remain exactly what they are today. Claims, not conclusions. As for William Freeman's allegations, the reactions continue spreading across social media. Some viewers believe he's finally exposing hidden truths. Others believe he's simply adding another chapter to a long-running rumor cycle. The truth may eventually become clearer. Or it may remain one of those celebrity mysteries that people debate for years without ever reaching a final answer. For now, the Harvey family remains one of the most talked about families online. The rumors continue. The theories continue. The debates continue. And the internet remains divided. The only thing everyone seems to agree on is this. As long as new interviews, old stories, and fresh allegations keep appearing, this controversy isn't disappearing anytime soon. And until something definitive changes the narrative, the question at the center of it all will remain the same. Are these allegations exposing a hidden side of one of entertainment's most famous families? Or are we watching another example of how powerful rumors can become when they collide with fame, influence, and a carefully crafted public image? That's a question every viewer will have to answer for themselves.